Hey, I'm Eric and welcome back to my Vietnam travel series with a special focus on motorcycling in this next few videos. In this video, I'm going to share with you what is the best type of motorcycling to be riding around in Vietnam. So if you're thinking about doing exactly that and you're not sure, I'm going to help you determine that so that you can figure out for yourself when you get here. I'm making this video to help those of you out there who are first timers to riding in Vietnam. It will help you to find the right motorcycle for you. So what is the right motorcycle? Well, this will really depend on where you plan to ride. But the first thing to do if you're coming from a Western country is to let go of all the familiars that you may have from your home country, like the big open roads and all of that stuff. Because it's completely different here in Vietnam in all aspects. The roads, the traffic, the people, and the vehicles. Now that we got that out of the way, here are some general things that you will need to know if you are a foreigner riding in Vietnam. First, motorcycles with 175 cc's and higher are only legal to ride if you have an A2 Vietnam license. So if you're a foreigner and thinking of renting that bigger bike, the Harley that you're used to, for instance, then you better give up that dream because it's just really impossible to do here. Also, it's illegal to ride without an international driver's license. I know in my last video, I said that most rental companies don't even ask you for that, which is true. But the thing is, if police stops you, they may ask you for that. And I know for sure that if you're doing the famous Ha Giang Loop, the police will stop you for it. All of the tour guides will tell you that. So if you're planning to ride a lot in Vietnam, then it's definitely worth it to get your international driver's license before you leave home. Now let's talk about the different types of motorcycles available here. First of all, there's the automatic transmission, which is basically what we know as scooters. This is probably the easiest to ride if you don't have a motorcycle license or if you haven't ridden one before. It's the best for beginners. So go for this if you're gonna rent a motorcycle here. Then next, there's the semi-automatic transmission. This basically is a motorcycle that has gears but no clutch. This is very much like the Honda Super Cub or the Blade. And then there's the manual. This is like the North American big bikes where you'll need to know how to operate the clutch and shift the gears. This is definitely not as common in Vietnam. Most rental agencies will want you to rent automatics because they assume that most people don't know how to ride with gears, so they don't want to be risking people damaging their machinery. You will be able to find some with semi-automatics. Now, manual is not that common, although dirt bikes are becoming more popular, especially in Hanoi. I saw a couple. Now, if you are planning to be in Vietnam for a while, like let's say 2 or 3 months or more, then it might be worth it to just buy a motorcycle here because they're fairly cheap and then sell it when you leave. Here are some rough prices of motorcycles and what you can expect. So used prices from about $200 to $3,000, that's about the range. 110cc is probably the most common size for local Vietnamese. This is the 110 Honda Wave or Blade, that's a semi-automatic. There's also the Honda Dream, which is semi-automatic. The Honda Airblade is probably the most common automatic scooter in Vietnam. Then there's also the 155cc Yamaha NVX. That's a higher-end, sportier scooter. And then you can also look for the larger scooters like the Sim XL and the Honda PCX. They're both 150cc scooters, but it's a larger frame and maybe more comfortable for a larger bodied foreigner. Now here are some recommended motorcycle types for you to consider depending on what you want to do with it. First of all, if you plan to be just riding around within the city, then I highly recommend automatic motorcycles, which is basically the scooter. They are the best way to get around. They will give you the most authentic experience in Vietnam because most people are on that anyways. They're easy to park. They can get you through the many tight alleys that you'll find in Vietnam. They are cheap on gas, although gas is relatively cheap here. For instance, it cost me only 80,000 dong to fill up my 155cc scooter. They are automatic, which means that you can be hands-free to take photos and other stuff that you may be doing. There's lots of cargo space under the seat for helmets, 2 even, so that you don't have to lug it around yourself. Now 100cc may feel small at home, but it'd be more than sufficient for the city speeds in Vietnam because it's much slower. Watch my other video where I dive into detail as to why scooters are the best option for Vietnam. If you plan to ride between cities, then I would say choose a slightly bigger scooter. This could be 125 or maybe 150 cc's, especially if you have a passenger. Now, if you're doing some twisty roads like the Hai Van Pass or the Ha Giang Loop and you like to push it a little bit, then I would personally stay away from the air blades or others with the skinny tires. You'll see locals doing this all the time and that's the most common. But personally for me, I like maximum contact patch if I'm trying to push it through the twisties. Not saying that you'll do some crazy speeds here. You could do a bigger bike like a Honda CBX 500 or a dirt bike, but you will give up the advantages of what a smaller scooter will give you when you get into town, which you'll be exploring. Also, like I said before, anything larger than 175cc scooters is very hard for foreigners to ride legally. If you're traveling into the north, like to Sapa or doing the Ha Giang Loop, then you should probably get a semi-automatic or a dual sport motorcycle like the Honda XR 150L, because a lot of the roads there could be not paved or heavily potholed. So that extra suspension would be really good. You can also get there not by motorcycle and just do a limousine bus. And when you get there, rent a motorcycle from one of the many shops up in the north. That would save you the travel commute on your motorcycle, and you can just sleep through the night with the overnight limousine bus. Now, if you're thinking of doing a cross-country trip going north to south or south to north, then the dual sport or small adventure bike might be your best bet. If you're spending a lot of time in Vietnam and packed a lot, then make sure you ask them to see if they include panniers for their bikes. If not, you may want to pack your own soft panniers. If you do plan to spend a lot of time exploring Vietnam on bike, then it may be worth it to just purchase bike here and sell it after you're done yourself. Tidget or Fung Motorcycle can help you with this, but I'm sure there are others also. If you're not an experienced rider but love the idea about exploring Vietnam on a motorcycle, then there are many tours that can take you along with experienced riders leading you. They are usually just around the city, so it's nothing too crazy, no highways. In Ha Giang Loop, that's an excellent loop. You could also even book a rider and you can sit on the back. So I hope that gives you a good overview of the different motorcycles available here in Vietnam, whether you're renting or buying. They are probably very different than what you're used to back home, but then the speeds here are much slower. And also what I realized when I was riding it, although on a small scooter, I was the same as everyone else and going the same speed. So relative to everything around me, it felt okay. Alright, so I hope you liked that video and I hope it gave you some insight into what type of motorcycle actually works best on these roads here. So when you get here, you'll be well prepared for the great roads to explore out here. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel and also help me grow my channel by sharing and liking this video. And until the next one,